Good afternoon. Just left the land auction, which was not over. We'll get results on that later. Probably talk about them tomorrow. But I'm up here at Agro Liquid in St. John's, Michigan. I'm about to walk into the Michigan Manure Summit to give my presentation on using social media on the farm, or engaging with the public through social media, something like that. Let's go. Have fun.
We are going to be speaking on engaging with the public on social media.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Nathan Baker. I'm farm with my family down in Waldron, Michigan. We're right on the Ohio-Michigan border. And I'm going to talk to you about right here, engaging the public with social media. So, why using social media matters? Well, there's a few different things. Has anybody ever go to a conference like this or have somebody tell you that you need to share your story before somebody shares it for you? Probably 10, 15 years ago when I was going to a lot of Farm Bureau conferences and different stuff, they talked about that a lot, where there was people that were anti-GMOs or anti-big livestock farms or whatever it was out there telling the public about how evil farmers are, and they said, well, we got to share our story for us. So that's part of my big picture is, share our story and tell people how we do things in agriculture instead of letting people who aren't involved in agriculture tell that for us. You guys are the experts in it, not somebody that's never been on a farm before, right? So that theme's going to come up a couple of times here. But and another reason why using it might matter is if you're doing any direct sales. Anybody do any sell a quarter beef or half a hog or any of that kind of stuff? Social media is a great way to engage with your local community and to help you find some customers. So it's a really good way to help connect with your customers and to help drive some sales. So we'll talk about my social media journey a little bit and where I kind of started. Back in 2011, I started a Facebook page for our farm, for Borderview Farms directly, not my personal one, but the actual farm page. I started a YouTube channel in 2015, and back then this was a lot of just, posting a picture of the combine in the field dumping into the grain cart, or a short video clip of a planter going, or something like that. It wasn't quite what I'm doing today with YouTube, and we'll get into that in a minute, but started the YouTube channel in 2015 there. Same type of stuff, short video clips to start with there, but sometime, it was in August of 2015, our local community has a plow day every year. It has nothing to do with our farms, just, the old farmers like to come and get their antique tractors out and plow fields for a day for fun, right? Well, one of my neighbors happens to have a big bud tractor with a 21 bottom plow on it. Here's an opportunity, so I took my drone, which was fairly new at the time, and took a 5.5 minute video clip of that, threw it up on YouTube, and it kind of blew up over the next 6 months or something. So kind of got me interested a little bit more into figuring out how do I do this again? How do we make that happen a second time? I'm still trying to replicate what that first video did, but we'll get there. So somewhere around 2019, I started an Instagram page. I also kind of changed my format a little bit. That's when I started doing more of a daily vlog style video. What do I do every day on the farm type of thing? So if any of you guys have ever seen like Millennial Farmer, Brian's farming videos down in Ohio, there's probably 100 of us now that make these kind of videos, but those were the guys that I kind of started watching, and I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. Like we're the same type of farm, same people here basically. There's no reason that I can't do something like that. So that was kind of where it all led from that. How do we share the big picture story to moving on, the next step, and so that's where I sort of started with that. So now I make almost daily videos posted on YouTube. Basically any day that I'm working at the farm, I've got my GoPros, I've got my phone out, and I am trying to film what I'm doing. It's really easy from a cab of a tractor or a combine, because auto steer, you just sit there and film it anyway. It's a lot harder in the winter when we're doing shop work and changing oils and stuff, trying to make sure that I capture enough or have interesting content to put on, but I try and do the best that I can. I also use Instagram and Facebook for some stories, short form stuff, just to try and continue to build that following a little bit. But basically the goal is to show the day-to-day life on a modern row crop farm in my case. I want to help people understand what happens every day, why we do the things that we do. Another thing I want to talk about is addressing controversial topics. Those things come up from time to time, not frequently, but enough that I'm not afraid to back away from somebody asking me, well, why are you spraying that field with glyphosate, or why are you using GMOs, or whatever the case may be for our farm. And it's an opportunity for me to help people understand, why it is that we do the things that we do. All right, so let's talk about choosing the right platforms. There's lots of different social media platforms, right? YouTube is obviously my platform of choice. That's the one that I have the biggest following on. That's the one that I post to the most frequently. Instagram is another really good one. Tends to be a little bit younger crowd on that one. It's really good for helping to connect you with other people doing the same type of thing. A little different format there, mostly in pictures or short video, their real format. Facebook, obviously, Facebook is kind of the one that everybody knows, everybody can use, and most people do use. Doesn't matter if you're a 15-year-old kid or you're a 70-year-old adult, everybody's on Facebook. So that's going to be your widest draw and pull. That's, if you're doing direct sales and that kind of stuff, that's probably the best platform for that marketing aspect of it there. X, apparently now it's X instead of Twitter. I've never figured that one out. I do have a Twitter account for the farm. I haven't logged into it for probably 3 years anyway. That one doesn't click with me. If it does, I know there's a lot of ag stuff on there. I just haven't figured out how to use it really well yet. TikTok is another one. That one's maybe even newer and more the younger crowd than Instagram is. Again, not a platform that I am on, but very much centered around the short form videos. And I know people have gained some really big followings on that one as well. Snapchat. So Snapchat's a little bit different in how it works. I have that for personal. I've never done anything with the farm stuff through it, but I do know some other ag YouTubers who have started on Instagram, or on Snapchat. They were sharing stories on there, and it kind of blew up to the point where everybody was telling them, hey, you should start a YouTube channel, and they have, and now they have hundreds of thousands of followers, and it's amazing how that transition can happen. LinkedIn's another one I'll just mention real quick. That's probably not, it's obviously different than the rest of those. It's more of the professional side of stuff. If you're looking for a job, it's a great one to be on. If you're trying to promote agriculture, I don't know if there's a fit there for that one. Tinder is not the platform you're looking for. That is the wrong type of social media, so let's steer clear of that one. But one thing that you might do, or another thing to consider, is starting a podcast, something like that. I know a lot of people that do that. So, let's see. So how to get started? Well, what do you post? Well, there's a couple of questions you got to ask yourself before you can figure that out. And it's who's your target audience? Are you doing the direct sales that you're trying to reach people in your local community that want to buy whatever product it is that you have for sale? What's your goal with it? Is it that increased sales, or are we in that big picture? I just want to put my stuff out there and help promote agriculture. When do you post? Well, a couple of things with that. One, it has to be sustainable. You can't do what I do and post every day because it's not sustainable, even though I've been doing it for 4.5 years. You'll burn yourself out eventually. But I do think that consistency is key. Now, whether that's once a month, once a week, every 3 days, something like that, people come to expect your posts, and so they want to see it on a regular and consistent basis. And along those same lines, be predictable. I was researching some stuff, preparing for this a little bit, and somebody was talking about podcasts and how the majority of podcasts never even make it to 10 episodes, and then they just kind of sit there and never make another one. One of the things with that is it can be really hard to continually put out something every week, like especially a podcast that takes a significant amount of time to, one, record it and then go through and do the editing process and all of that. But maybe start like a 5-week series. So put one out every week for 5 weeks, take a 2-month break, come back, do another 5-week series where you address another topic for those 5 episodes or something like that. And then the most important thing for me is just find your style. Right? For me, it's long form YouTube videos. That's what fits. I don't do a lot with the other ones. My Facebook and Instagram stuff, I post fairly frequently when we're in the fields, in the fall and in the spring. I haven't posted anything on them for several weeks at this point, so it's just not my style. But there's also, there's different styles of, I'll call it the YouTube videos, but any of these platforms. You can be the informative type, which is more what I do. I like to share the whys and the hows and, how does this product work kind of stuff. There's a lot of other people that are much more entertaining than I am. That's not my specialty, but people still watch for some reason. Again, long form versus short form videos. And then there's another one that live videos. I try and utilize those at least once a month when we're not in the busy season, and try and do it once a week when we are more in the fields and stuff. And that's just a good way to connect with your audience, kind of have that instantaneous feedback where they can ask a question and I can answer it right then and there. So, and then the biggest thing with getting started is you just kind of have to do it. I sat around for 6 months watching other people do this, like, how do I start? I don't even know how to start doing this. And eventually I just kind of made that decision of, we got to do it. We just got to start. So I made the first video, and it's been pretty seamless ever since. Hardest part is starting, yeah. Okay, so I'll show a few examples of some posts. That one over there is a sample of a YouTube video, and that's what everybody is going to see, right? So there's two things in there that are going to make people want to click on it and watch my video. One is the picture, the thumbnail, which is pretty important. It has to be something interesting. And number two is the title. If you don't have a good title, you don't have a good thumbnail, nobody's going to watch it. That's what I've learned. That one happened to do pretty well. That's a good picture, and the whole should have got a 12-row thing. We run an S780 combine with an 8-row corn head, and I get comments about it all the time on how I should have a 12-row. I won't get into the reasons why it doesn't fit our operation right now, but that particular day was the one day this fall that I could have run a 12-row corn head and gotten a little bit more done, and so I kind of played off that a little bit. This middle one, that's a Facebook post from this fall. Probably was actually posted on Instagram, and then Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same company, so you can cross-post. I post it to Instagram, it automatically goes to my Facebook page as well. But just a picture of the steam coming off the grain dryer there that fall. And then this is an Instagram reel that we were down at the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville last year. In the John Deere booth there, they had a little pedal pull set up. And well, let's see, does this play? Pedal pulls. That video that my kid's doing, I pulled my phone out real quick and videoed it and threw it up there. His face isn't at nothing. Somehow or another, that hit the algorithm, and it has like 1.25 million views. I try all day to get that one to do it, but no, it's this one where I get nothing for it. But that's just how it works sometimes. So. Things to post about though. So if you were going to start doing something, whether that's just a Facebook page or a YouTube channel or something. I mean, you guys are mostly a livestock crowd, from what I understand. They didn't tell me this was for the Michigan Manure Summit when I agreed to it, Sarah. I found that out afterwards. That's okay. I'm not a livestock guy, so I don't have that background or that content to put out there. But feeding livestock, and not just the feed mixer, dumping it into the bumps, or however you guys do it. I don't know. But what are you putting in it? How are you mixing it? What's going into the decision-making process on what you're feeding your livestock? I think people are really interested in that kind of stuff. Caring for the animals. Obviously we talked about that controversial topic stuff earlier a little bit. Antibiotics, vaccines, whatever, that's all controversial stuff, but tell them why. Because you're caring for your animals, you're taking care of them, right? Making sure they're not sick or whatever. Running a chopper, I've got a buddy that's a dairy farmer just north of us. I've come and videoed his chopper and that whole silage making process. People love that stuff. People love equipment, especially equipment that they've never seen before. And I know choppers are second nature to anybody in here that's doing that, but for most people they're not. So showing that and how they work, that's a really good thing. One thing that I think would be really cool, show a time lapse of packing a bunker. All of the tractors with the blades, dumping trucks and pushing that up, show them covering it, and putting the tarps and tires on and all that. I think that would make a great video. Hauling manure. Obviously you're here at the Manure Summit. Again, why? Why are you hauling it? How are you taking precautions to take care of the environment? Tell them you're coming to this meeting to learn how to do that stuff better. All that is good things for that big picture public image. Obviously everybody loves baby animals. But again, highlight the positives, show the things that you guys are doing well and how your environmental stewardship practices are and the sustainability aspects of it. But again, don't be afraid to address controversial topics and explain why you're doing what you're doing. Because you guys are the experts at what you do. All right, so some tips for being successful in my opinion. Be real, be relatable. Like, people don't want to see fake stuff on the internet. Well, okay, I take that back. Everybody wants to see fake stuff on the internet. That's not the point of what you guys would be trying to do, or how to promote agriculture in social media. So, humanize it. Be the face of the farm. Put your face out there if you're comfortable with it, and show them that you are, the person that's running this, and it's not some corporate world like everybody seems to think. Speak in easy to understand terms, which means don't get too technical, but at the same time, don't assume that your audience is dumb. Like, if you want people to understand what you do every day and why you're doing it, you can't assume that they won't understand it if you explain it to them. And so trying to balance those two things, where you're telling everybody everything, but at the same time not making it so complicated that they can't understand it, because they're not from our world. Answer questions, don't get into arguments. Those are two sometimes very difficult things to separate, but people are going to come and they're going to make comments and have questions, and some of them are genuine, like, why do you do this? Those are the easy ones to answer. The accusatory questions that are like, you shouldn't be doing that or whatever, those ones are harder to not argue with. But if you want this to be sustainable and be successful, you have to enjoy it. You got to really like posting and taking the videos and doing that stuff. And don't give up. You're not going to have that overnight success where all of a sudden you go from 0 to 100,000 subscribers overnight. If I wouldn't have had a pretty good start on YouTube with that Big Bud video that I put out there, I don't know how long it would have taken me to get to the point where I am now, but I kind of already had a built-in subscriber base at that point. To handling the negativity side of it, we touched on just a second ago there. Just be professional. Attempt to explain why it is that you're doing what you're doing, or whatever the negative comment was. But you have to control what you can control. You can't control what somebody else's attitude is or how they respond to you. You can control how you respond to them. And this is important. You won't change someone's mind if they won't let you, but other people are watching. So when somebody several years ago posted a comment on my YouTube video, they went on the EWG's website and looked up the farm subsidies for Border View Farms over the past 15 years or whatever it was, and said, is it true that you've gotten X amount of dollars from the federal government? Yeah, you can look it up as good as I can, man. I'm never going to convince that guy that the farm subsidies were there for a reason, or they were beneficial, or whatever. But there's 100 other people that are going to see that comment, or 1,000 other people. Okay, and so there's other people that are going to see all of that, and you might not change the mind of the person that made the comment, but you will change the mind of the other 100 people there. So growing your following, use multiple platforms and formats. You can use hashtags to help just kind of tag your pictures. Whether I post a picture of our John Deere and the 8RX, I'll kind of put that hashtag John Deere and stuff. That way when somebody searches for it, my post will come up. Interact with your followers, respond to their comments, and ask them to follow you. The reason that everybody says at the end of a YouTube video, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, is because people are dumb and they don't remember to do it unless you tell them to. More or less, when I ask for that, people click the subscribe button. When I don't, they don't. A good way to do it is collaborate with other social media users. Other people that are doing the same type of thing, because it exposes you to their followers and them to your followers, and can be mutually beneficial. So we're going to go through some of this here real fast, but what's a successful social media presence? How many followers does it take? Well, that depends on your goals, right? And they have analytics, metrics on all of these social platforms to tell how you're doing. And then you can go back to the goals that you set at the very beginning. Did you accomplish them? Are you increasing your sales of your quarters of beef or whatever it is? Real quick, we'll touch on monetization, because I put a lot of time into this, right? And so I'm sitting at somewhere around 27,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I put out a lot of content. It takes me a lot of time. It needs to have a little bit of a return for me. So yeah, you can make some money on it. With YouTube, it requires 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours in the previous 12 months. Facebook is a little higher with 10,000 followers and 600,000 minutes in the last 60 days. I have not made any money on Facebook. But other good ways, through brand partnerships, merchandise sales. I do have a site you can go and buy yourself a Border View Farm shirt if you really want to. And then affiliate marketing, things like using Amazon with an affiliate link, and anytime I have a product or something that I'm using. Most of the time for me, it's some sort of car wash soap that I'm using on the tractors that people want to know where they can buy it. I just throw a link there, they click on it, they buy it, I make like 2%. So in conclusion, use social media to promote your farm and the industry. Be consistent, but don't expect to hit a home run overnight, because that probably isn't going to happen. And one thing that I have learned is new opportunities can come out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden you'll get an email saying, hey, do you want to do this with me, or some collaboration or something else, and you just never know where that next opportunity is going to come from. And enjoy it. So with that, that's my presentation. You can follow me on the following platforms there, all of them at Borderview Farms. I have a website, borderviewfarms.com, and I have a seed business, xlseeds.com there. Send me an email, borderviewfarms.com.
I'm gonna keep it going for you too.
Yeah, turn them back on.
Yeah. So based on the presentations we had for management, what questions do you guys have? I'm also gonna bring the mic to you so that we can hear you. Not that that should deter you from asking questions. Any questions?
You covered things that you should post on social media. Would you like to cover things that you should not post on social media?
Does this work? Yep. So I tend to be more of an open book than most people probably would. However, when it comes to personal financial or personal information, you should use some caution there, and that limit is going to be different for everybody. I'm fairly open when it comes to yields. As far as on a field basis, we'll be in the combine and I'll show the yield monitor, I'll show the field averages at the end. One thing I have never done and will not do is actually show farm totals, for our entire farm operation on how much, per bushel or bushels per acre yield, or the total number of acres. So if you keep good enough track, you can get pretty close, but nobody will ever know exactly what our production is, at least not from social media.
Great question. What other questions do we have?
So I have a question all three of you could probably answer. How do you deal with, how do you handle interacting with the public when there's that negative perception, whether something's actually happening or not? But how do you deal with that negative public interaction? How kind of like your best tips and tricks as you're kind of going about the world of the world of people right now?
I'll start and then I'll
Okay.
pass it off
All
to
right.
you. You've got the bigger issue. For complaints, when we deal with those, we're dealing with an individual that has general concerns. So that's pretty easy to have, in essence, an open conversation. I was able to work with this farm. They're doing all of these things right. If there's one or two things we're asking them to fix, usually they're pretty minor. And they're just generally interested on what's actually going on and what that operation is actually doing. And coming from a farm too, that helps bridge the gap between all three parties that are involved.
Yeah, I will say this about negative comments to start with is when I started the whole YouTube the way that I'm doing it now thing, I don't know if my dad was 100% on board because of the negativity and just that potential feedback. 99% of all the feedback I get is very positive. I get very little negative, at least in what I am doing. But when you do get some negative, I kind of go back to that. You're not going to change that person's mind, but you are still setting an example for everybody else that's watching. Especially with what I'm doing with comments that are on the internet. Those don't go away. It's there forever. And so it could be somebody watching that video 2 or 3 months later, and they read through the comments and somebody made whether it was about content in the video or not, how you handle that and react to it is always going to be there. And so I try to be as professional and positive as I can, but again, explain why we're doing what we're doing or why what that person is saying is incorrect, and try and show it in a public or a positive image, because the rest of the people reading it, they're going to judge. Is it the person making the accusation that's right, or is it the person that's responding and actually the expert in this and doing it every day?
In my world, as far as the trucking industry, our largest division is our manure division. We've got 18 manure tanks. And we kind of made it sarcastically, but it's actually pretty true. So we have a sheet that sits on the counter in the office, and it's got the bulletins kind of all over the place, the break room and where we keep the keys and all that stuff. And it's a list, and the first one says, people don't like trucks. The second part says, people don't like manure. People don't like trucks hauling manure. People don't like trucks hauling, and then it kind of keeps going down like that. But at the end of the day, we have policies in place to try to mitigate some of the kickback from some of the people that we might run into. So like, for example, like we don't drive over 35 miles an hour on dirt roads. A, for the dust. B, we're heavy. We're going to beat up dirt roads. The slower you go, in theory, the easier it is. And it's through some of the training, I hate to beat it that way, but through some of the training, the guys kind of understand that and be like, hey, you know, this is why we need to go slow. It's not just because of the road. It's a little courtesy for the people living on the dirt roads. Where we're at, we're mobile enough and we move around enough to where we're usually not at the same field taking the same route for more than a day or two. Tops 3 or 4, depending on how many acres are there and things of that sort. And then I don't really preach it, but I think it's kind of common knowledge. You know, it's like you don't like the smell of a landfill, don't live next to a landfill. Obviously, it's a little bit harder to do, but you don't like the smell of cows. You don't like tractors running up and down your roads, and I'm sure there's some city street, some house for sale over there too. Obviously, we don't tell people that because there's a public image, but it's a lot of the trainers understanding kind of why we have the policies in place to mitigate some of that stuff. So that's how we go about it.
All right, I think we probably have time for one more question if anyone has a lingering question. Not seeing any. All right, let's give our panel of speakers a round of applause. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead.
Well, how'd I do, everybody? What do you think? Do okay? That wasn't too bad. We did well.